The rain was coming down sideways like nails driven by a furious wind. It was that kind of night, the kind that made a private eye like me want to pour another 3 fingers of bourbon and let the city drown. But I had a cold case to revisit, a ghost from the digital past that still haunts boardrooms and basements alike. The year was 2017. The world was wired, wide open, and ripe for the picking. And somewhere in that concrete jungle, a titan of trust was about to take a fall. It was a case of holes in armor, of walls built on sand. And when those walls came tumbling down, 147 million lives would be left exposed to the storm. Equifax. The name was synonymous with credit, with reputation, with the very fabric of financial identity in America. They held the keys to the kingdom, the sacred numbers that opened doors and closed opportunities, and they were about to learn a hard lesson about the cost of neglect. Their digital fortress was supposed to be impenetrable, a monument to security. But every fortress has its weak points, its forgotten corners, its unpatched holes, and the enemy was already inside the gates, walking the halls in the guise of a simple software flaw. The breach began not with a bang, but with a whisper, a vulnerability in the Apache Struts framework, the very backbone of Equifax's online dispute portal. It was a flaw that had been known and fixed for weeks. A simple patch was all it would have taken to slam the door shut. But that patch never came. And so when the exploit code hit the streets, the attackers were ready. They came through the front door, welcomed by the very system designed to keep them out. The initial intrusion was clean, quiet, professional. They slipped into the network like a ghost in the machine. Once inside, the intruders moved with a methodical precision that would make any seasoned criminal proud. They used tools designed to harvest credentials, to escalate privileges, to map out the network. It was a digital house of cards, and they were about to blow it down. They moved laterally, jumping from one system to another, each step bringing them closer to the crown jewels. The attackers employed living off the land binaries, tools that were already present on the network, making their tracks harder to follow. They used mimikatz to extract passwords from memory, infosec to move across systems, and custom malware to maintain their foothold. It was a masterclass in persistence, a slow burn that would eventually consume everything. The exfiltration was the final act in this digital heist. The attackers siphoned off terabytes of data, names, addresses, social security numbers, birth dates, the very essence of identity, packaged and shipped off to parts unknown. They used encrypted channels to cover their tracks, routing the stolen data through a labyrinth of servers and proxies. The command and control infrastructure was sophisticated, designed to evade detection, and for months they operated in the shadows, undetected by the very systems that were supposed to protect the data. The alarms never sounded. The watchdogs never barked. It was a failure of detection on a monumental scale. The fallout was catastrophic. 147.9 million records compromised. Financial losses in the hundreds of millions, lawsuits, regulatory fines, and the very real erosion of public trust. Executives stepped down, careers were ruined, and the very foundation of the credit reporting system was shaken to its core. It was a stark reminder of the human cost of digital negligence. Lives were upended, identities stolen, futures jeopardized. All because a patch went unapplied, a vulnerability unaddressed. It was a wake-up call that echoed through the halls of corporate America. The lessons learned from the Equifax breach are as relevant today as they were in 2017. Patch management is not optional. It is a fundamental component of any security program. Network segmentation can contain a breach and limit its scope. Multi-factor authentication adds critical layer of defense. Endpoint detection and response tools can spot anomalous behavior before it escalates into a full-blown crisis. And above all, a culture of security must permeate every level of an organization. The tools and frameworks exist. NIST, CIS, Zero Trust, but they are only effective if they are implemented with rigor and discipline. This case is a cold reminder of what happens when the digital gates are left unguarded, when the shadows are allowed to fester, when the rain keeps falling and no one bothers to fix the leak. In this city of bytes and bandwidths, vigilance is not a luxury, it is a necessity. Because in the digital underworld, the house always wins if you don't play your cards right. And the only sure bet is that the next big breach is just around the corner. So stay sharp, stay secure, and never let your guard down. Because in this town, it's always raining and the night is long.